Nagbabalik ang schoolmates at syempre bilang paalala sa ating mga manonood, ang schoolmates ay hindi nagdidikta kung ano ang tama or mali. Our goal is to spark the conversation and hear the perspectives ng ating mga kabataan regarding social issues. Kaya naman, bago tayo magsimula, let's lay down the ground rules. Ano nga ba to?
May dalawang teams na maglalaban, ang Team Pro at Team Con, na may tig-tatlong miyembro. Ang team leaders ang unang sasalang sa ating debate. Para sa bawat tanong, may 3 rounds or lives ang bawat isa na may 30 seconds per speaker per round. Kapag sobrang intense at walang gustong magpatalo, we activate the bonus round. 1 minute and 30 seconds yan na free flow discussion. Meaning, bahala na magsagutan ang magkabilang panig. Pero kung halimbawa, hindi na makarebat ang naunang debater, pwede siyang mag-buzz para palitan ng ibang team member. Ito ang twist. Bilang mga host, may kapangyarihan kaming mag-buzz sa gitna ng laban. Kung medyo off, boring, o hindi kami satisfied sa sagot ng sinumang debater, we can buzz you out at papalitan ng ibang team member. Kaya make sure na hindi lang matalino ang sagot nyo. Dapat klaro, direkta at convincing. Bring your best arguments.
At nalaman na nga natin ang ground rules para sa ating debate, kaya naman simulan na natin ang debating ito and we will start with our team leaders sa ating unang katanungan. Death penalty for corrupt politicians, dapat o hindi dapat? Erin.
We believe that death penalty for corrupt officials is a just sanction, no, for them committing crimes such as corruption, because we believe that corruption is a heinous crime that do not only plunders the money of the people but also literally kills the people. So here are the 3 social realities that I am basing off my argument. First is that it kills the dream of the people by depriving them of quality education. Second,
Okay.
it kills the people when we let them be stuck in poverty.
Okay.
And lastly, it kills the people who have no access to public healthcare services.
Okay.
Actually, I believe that the death penalty itself should not be reinstated back into our society because it is a corruptible law. It can be corrupted by our judicial processes itself. And I believe that in our team, we believe that how are we sure that the death penalty will be given to those who are really guilty of corruption? And we believe here that that there are alternative options to the death penalty, and we can instead propose alternative options to combat corruption.
Okay, so you don't believe in the system, and what I'm hearing from you is that it will work kasi it's a deterrent. Tama ba?
Yes.
Okay, so kilala yung binanggit natin na bill kanina as death penalty by firing squad. It could be any other means. Maybe you can propose something else. But sa tingin nyo ba, enough ba ito to instill fear sa mga corrupt politicians sa ating bansa? Erin?
I definitely believe po, no, that imposing or reinstating that penalty as a sanction to corrupt politicians will really instill fear, no, sa mga politicians na ito, because kapag nandyan na yung parameters na masiset natin na yung corruption can be a sanction through death penalty, I think they will think twice, no, before they act such heinous crime, no, against the people. And I believe the reason kung bakit nagkakaroon din tayo ng ganitong conversation, we are considering that penalty as a sanction, is because we believe that our existing parameters is not working anymore.
Okay, so there is disbelief also in the system. That's why you're proposing death penalty. Ano masasabi mo dun?
I don't believe po na the death penalty can make the politicians fear such law. And I believe here that politicians can evade the law. And what we're
Okay.
seeing right now is that the current system that we have, they are actually evading the law, and some of them are being able to get away with doing corruption. So here in our theme, what we're proposing here is that we do not believe that this will instill fear to politicians because they can evade such a law, they can bend the law.
What I'm hearing from you both is that pwede kasing mapalitan yung ulo ng isang
Yes.
pwedeng corrupt na politician. So, you are saying that it's flawed. That's what
Yes,
you're
that's what
saying.
I'm saying.
And what you're saying is that it's a good deterrent. Okay? So,
Yes.
that's your parameter. Sige. So, sa panukalang ito, kung maibaba man yung death penalty, and in your case, can you state that specific alternative? Tingin nyo ba it should only encompass select government officials? Meaning to say, kasi di ba in the bounds of accountability. Sino ba dapat ang sumasagot pag merong korupsyon? Ang ulo nga lang ba or yung head of the department? O dapat down to the actual criminal person, yung talagang nag-commit, yung nagtanggap ng pera, kung sino man ang actual doer nitong corrupt act na ito, dapat ba ma-extend yung sanction na yun to them or dapat head ang sumagot doon? Erin.
I believe po that, yung kung sino man yung talagang nag-commit ng crime must answer to the people, must be held accountable. Kasi kahit na, let's say, sa structure ng Philippine politics, yes, yes, kailangan accountable yung president because siya yung chief executive.
Okay.
Pero meron pa rin po kasi tayong tinatawag na principle na, yun nga po, yung power is delegated to this individual. So,
Okay.
you know your responsibility, you know your job. So if ever man na mag-commit ka ng crime, na alam mo naman consciously, you must answer to the people.
Okay.
As we in the opposition, we really actually don't want to reinstate the death penalty back into our society because we believe that it is a corruptible system, and therefore,
Bakit?
what we fear here,
Bakit corruptible siya in the case na kung ibababa natin to the lowest government official, bakit siya maging
We
corruptible?
believe that innocent lives could be caught in the crossfires of big political rivalries. So we
Okay.
fear here that the system itself can be used as a tool of power, it can be abused, kumbaga,
Okay.
yung mismong death penalty, and it can be used to silence those who are oppositions or rivalries of the other party.
Sige,
Yun po.
I want to hear a specific alternative. Kapag sinabi mo meron kang alternative na to death penalty by firing squad, what's that alternative?
Our alternative here in the opposition, we believe that instead of reinstating the death penalty, we believe that we should instead improve our judicial system, and we should also improve the laws that we have set upon regarding, for example, the current laws that we have with the political dynasties. There should be amendments or revisions to the laws that we have set there so that we can also avoid political dynasties that span across centuries, or rather that span across decades po.
Ano masasabi mo doon when she's saying na the way to correct the system is to add more guardrails to an already failing system? What's your answer to that?
I think, I have to refute first po no, yung sinabi niya dun sa regarding sa political dynasties. For the longest time, we don't have law that
Mhm.
prohibits political dynasties. So that's one of the many flaws of our legal systems right now. Pero I agree na flawed yung justice system, and we believe that reinstating death penalty will push the system itself to develop. Kasi nandiyan naman na yung parameters, nandiyan na yung sandigan bayan, nandiyan na nagsimula na tayo sa anti-graft and corruption. So, what's stopping us rather from developing this parameters to sanction this corrupt politician?
Palit muna tayo. I want a different perspective. Palit tayo. Sige, Khadija and Walaisa. Kung may alternative system siya na pinopropose in your opposition, di ba, na putting guardrails in an already failing system, and your case is that death penalty should stop that, ano ang guarantee natin na on all sides, meron ka talagang mapapanagot na isang tao? Because in the case of what's happening now in the Philippines, we're going through a lot of different processes in the judicial system, but we are not holding anyone accountable. What makes death penalty a good alternative, and why does it not make a good alternative? Ikaw muna, Walaisa.
Okay, so death penalty is a good alternative, no, kasi sa kasalukuyang sistema ng Philippines, no, and I think it's very very apparent, no, kahit sa studies sa political science and all, that even our judicial system is very flawed, no, and pushing death penalty will actually make it develop in a sense that hindi lang sa usapin, no, ng mga politiko, no, yung magiging accountable, pero yung mismong justice system mismo, kasi even them have actually connections with the judicial system itself, no, so we have to develop.
Okay.
If we impose the death penalty, we have to remember that the Philippines under the Philippine Constitution, Article 3, Section 1 and Section 19, it states that each individual has the right to life, as well as the Philippines abolishes or bans death penalty. In addition to this, under the Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 3 and 5, it also states that death penalty is prohibited.
Okay.
Okay, I might have to refute, no, your statement that I think you are pointing out that death penalty is absolutely unconstitutional na sa Philippines and even in the international arena. Well, it's not. No, if you are to study the Article 3 Bill of Rights of the Constitution, especially in this Section 19, it states here no that the government is actually proposing an alternative which is reclusion perpetua. But that penalty is not actually unconstitutional here because even when the 1987 constitution have been passed during Fidel Ramos' time, that penalty have been imposed.
Okay.
Still, we can highlight that death penalty is still unconstitutional, especially that the Philippines is one of the signatories of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which states that the Philippines has agreed to ban death penalty, and this cannot be revoked.
Okay, so I might have to refute another statement of yours because there is actually a principle when it comes to municipal and international law. Now, municipal law is a priority or kumbaga it comes first no doon sa international law na tinatawag natin. No, so time ni Fidel Ramos, meron tayong death penalty and it could be imposed again no when the legislative actually legislates one no here in the Philippines. So we have what we call the term legislative allowance here in the Philippines for that. No, so it's not entirely unconstitutional.
Still, as you have mentioned a while ago, you have agreed that the Philippine justice system is, first of all, slow, it is flawed, it is not perfect. How can we guarantee that? What about those? Just think about those who have been pressured into the system of corruption and they have not fully intentionally want to be in this. In other words, they are innocent. This can be very risky for us. In addition, there is no evidence that corruption, that death penalty reduces corruption.
Okay. We're now in the free-flow discussion. Hayaan ko kayong tumuloy sa sinasabi ni
Ayan, no.
Khadijah.
So, when it comes to the legal system that you are saying, no, of course, this is actually visible here in the Philippines, no. For the past few years or kasaysayan na mismo ang nagpatunay na yung mismong sistema natin, even in the Supreme Court, no, meron tayong tinatawag na patrimonialistic relationship when it comes to Philippine politics that even our highest leaders, no, are actually in alliance with our Supreme Court justices and all. No, so hindi yung death penalty it will not only help them kumbaga
Let
develop.
me stress again the fact that it is unconstitutional, which means that
It
the
is not
Philippines...
unconstitutional if you read no actual laws about it.
No,
if
the
you
law is
study the Fidel
absolute.
Ramos.
The law is
no,
absolute.
No, the law is not absolute.
Yes, it
No,
is.
the law is not absolute.
Okay.
And in addition to this, it's not about having more laws, but it's about having laws that are feasible.
Then
and
what
that
laws are
doesn't-
you actually proposing?
We propose that, again, we have to improve our justice
In
system.
what way?
And one of the...
In what way?
If
When
you
even
really
our
want to reduce
legal,
corruption,
even if our
if we
lawyers
really want to
are
prevent
Supreme
corruption,
Court,
we have to
look
do
at
it.
what is happening in our
We have to
system
do
right
it. We
now
have to
with the
start-
issue of our current
We have to
high
start
leader that
Okay.
is
eliminating corruption
Okay.
from the roots.
I like the fact that you're all impassioned about this specific topic. But balik tayo, no? I like how the discussion went. But what I needed to hear is that from both sides of the pro, if you think that death penalty should work, what are the timelines that are we looking at that guarantees efficacy of this specific law? Or this bill, rather. It's not yet a law. It's not, di pa siya pumapasa sa read. So, kumbaga, with this proposal, what guarantees the efficacy? On your end, since you are proposing that we should put more guardrails and not new laws, how can we improve the current guardrails given that even with the guardrails right now, uso pa rin yung palit-ulo, retracting of statements, iba-ibang tao ang nailalagay natin behind bars despite evidences that are compelling. I want to hear first from Erin.
So
Tapos
when
ako
it
naman
comes
kay Flo.
to the timeline, no, I think it is very important, no, that this will be hard to say because even our legislative system is actually flawed. All
Okay.
our major government agencies and branches are actually flawed, no. So I think if we are to have a particular point person, no, that will work on this law, it has to be the progressive politicians.
Okay, but what timelines are we looking at?
I think our timeline or our target timeline, if mas immediate siya, no, if mas immediate siyang maipapasa ay 6 years. We can look at it,
In a
or
specific
six.
term of the
Yes,
presidential.
yes.
Okay, so we're looking at a specific presidential duration. Ikaw, ano masasabi mo na specific guardrails that will work better than what she's saying?
First, back to the main reason why are you proposing the death penalty? It is to prevent corruption.
Mm-mm.
It is to eliminate corruption. How can we guarantee that by pushing this bill, we can prevent corruption? It is not. It is not strategic. If we really want to do, if we really want to prevent corruption, what we have to do is to go through the roots of each department,
Okay.
improve our education system, improve our
Okay.
the economy, and as well as look into the laws. What are the needed amendments
Mm.
that can ensure accountability, and that there is no way, because lawmakers and politicians, powerful politicians, they know how to twist, they know how to use the law. How can they get misuse? So we have to ensure that our laws are made strategic.
Okay. So I hear strategic laws from progressive politicians. I want a change of speakers. Balikan natin, no? I want to hear a specific strategy. Ano sa tingin nyo ang root cause ng corruption? Sorry balikan lang natin kasi we're trying to address corruption here, but what exactly is the root cause of corruption? And how does death penalty actually address that? And how does alternative guardrails avoid having corruption in the system? Or is that something that we cannot avoid in a specific country that is bureaucratic like the Philippines? Dion.
Unang-una sa lahat, ang pinagmumulan ng korupsyon ang kapitalistang sistema.
Okay.
So, it is the very root cause of this corruption. Dahil sa kapitalistang sistema, natututo ang mga tao na maging greed sa power, maging greed sa pera. Kaya ang pinapoint natin dito is corruption is not about just a stolen money, it's about a stolen social wealth. Na sa bawat peso na ninanakaw ng mga corrupt na politicians, ay ito yung mga peso na pinaghirapan ng mga manggagawa, magsasaka at ng mga mahihirap na dapat na ilalaan dapat sa edukasyon, sa pagpapalakas ng ating sistema sa mga ospital at syempre pagpapakain sa mga gutom.
Okay. How does your specific strategy, kasi na-mention ni Khadija kanina, kailangan ng strategic laws. What kind of laws will actually address corruption? And why do you think corruption exists?
Firstly, why do we think corruption exists? Is because, kagaya sinabi niyo palit-ulo, I believe the team also acknowledges that it is hindi lang isa yung gumagalaw sa corruption system natin, kundi iba. That's why we are encouraging, or we are encouraging the what we call is reform itself. Yung sistema mismo ang problema. The idea is very good, but we are talking about the risk. The big risk that we are talking about here is regarding the ICCPR, the treaty.
Okay, sige. Let's part that discussion. Dion, balik tayo dito sa'yo. What do you think are the concrete steps to eradicate corruption?
So I think the biggest or the concrete step na pwede natin gawin is syempre mag-impose nga nung pinopropose natin na death penalty. Kasi nga, ang pinopoint natin dito, ang death penalty is a powerful deterrent.
Okay.
Dahil ang death penalty ay mag-i-instill ng fear sa mga corrupt politicians. Masyado nang pagod ang mga Pilipino sa paulit-ulit. Ngayon, gaya nga na sinasabi natin, papalit-palit yung Blue Ribbon, yung mga suspect sa flood control anomalies, naging state witness na. So, the Filipinos are tired sa mga paulit-ulit na session. So we must instill the death penalty to instill fear sa mga corrupt politicians. At kailangan na ng masa na patuloy na umalsa at mailabas yung galit nila dahil ayun yung nararapat.
Okay. Sige. I'm hearing that because you're tired of the changes in the suspects, in how the judicial system is actually carrying out the process, how do you propose we guardrail the judiciary branch of the Philippines? Because if you're putting death penalty as part of the laws, how can it not be abused on your end?
Yes. Actually, your very proposition in death penalty is very idealistic, no? Because when we talk about death penalty, it is very risky in a part kasi at the same time, we also want justice, but not in a way that we are risking this kind of, especially there will be a tendency of frame up, no? At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, it is a treaty, no? We are bound to international obligations. Do we really need, or do we really can the Philippines can really be afford to lose its diplomatic relations to the other countries, and can we really take criticism?
Okay. Yun.
Okay, let's talk about justice. Hindi lang hangga't nananatili ang mga corrupt na politician, hindi matatamasa ng mga Pilipino ang sinasabi nating hustisya. So, ang binabanggit natin, pagod na tayo, paulit-ulit na lang yung mga sessions sa Senate, sa Congress. Kaya kailangan natin ng isang batas na magkakaroon ng isang matibay na batas upang magparusa sa mga taong nagnanakaw ng yaman na hindi naman nila pinaghirapan. So,
Okay.
what we are gonna propose is a death penalty na siyang tutulong, hindi lang para sa
Okay. Okay, sige. I want to reframe the question kasi umuulit tayo with a failed system, umuulit tayo with how the emotions of the people are. So, given that the Philippines is a shame-driven country, it's not fear-driven kasi kung fear-driven ang bansa, marami nang takot na magkurakot ngayon. It's shame-driven. That's why most of the people who have corrupted, have retreated from the limelight is because it's shame-driven. How do we instill fear or shame in a sense that, one, it doesn't ensure palit ng ulo or evades the law, and second is that it's foolproof. Hindi kayang i-evade yung sinasabi ninyo about death penalty, because I agree, what you're saying is very idealistic. How do we guardrail that? If you're pushing for death penalty, what should be the parameters that are set? Dion.
So I think the parameters na we can set is syempre meron tayong tinatawag na people's initiative.
Okay.
So kailangan talaga pagdating sa mga batas or sa pagkakaroon ng mga session regarding this ay merong people participation. And
Okay.
binabanggit nga natin the power only belong or will always belong to the people. So kailangan natin ng mga tao na pwedeng makisali dito sa mga discussion na to about sa kung
But
sino ba
isn't
yung
that the goal of the House of Representatives?
yes, it is the goal of House of Representatives, pero pinatunayan na nakasaysayan na ang House of Representative, ang nirepresenta nila ang mga elitistang pamilya, ang mga
Okay.
political dynasties.
Okay, given what he said, how can we make that alternative foolproof in your case? If it's not death penalty, how?
You said yourself, 'di ba? Dahil yung mga taong nakaupo is mga from political dynasty itself, at the same time palitulo, 'di ba? How can we be sure na killing another simple politician can reduce or can really be a solution to corruption? At the same time, when we talk about death penalty, it is very risky at the same time, no? So what we are talking about, as I said, what we are seeing kasi is in the lens of risk and consequences. What you're talking about, of course, seeking justice through the idealistic solution. But as you can see, this kind of part is we can only be to reform by
Okay.
changing the people.
I want palit. I want a different, I want the leaders ulit. Okay. Sige. To summarize what your teams have mentioned,
Hmm.
it's a faulty system and it's a deterrent. Balik tayo ulit doon. What is your replacement to the death penalty by firing squad? And what can be the manner at which it can be reviewed? Kasi nagsasabi tayo na hindi, pangit tong sistemang to, ganito siya. But what really is faulty in our system? I want to identify that. Then on your end, how can we make death penalty foolproof? Kasi yun yung pinapoint nilang chink on your armor. How do we do that, Erin?
I think to add lang din po no, sa points na na-layout ni Melissa kanina, our parameters to ensure that death penalty will actually work no sa mga corruption cases is that willing kami na ihain ng Congress yung amendments doon sa jurisdiction ng Sandigan Bayan, kasi nandiyan naman na yung Sandigan Bayan as a court that hears and tries corruption cases. So ang kailangan na lang natin gawin, i-ensure na yung jurisdiction ng Sandigan Bayan ay meron din silang maset na na meron din silang maset na parameters no para sa pagtatry ng cases na possible na magkaroon ng sanction for death penalty.
Okay.
That's
That's unclear to me. You have to go back to that later. Okay.
I think that the replacement that we can have instead of the proposed bill 11211 is that instead of thinking of the death penalty as the most severe punishment that we can have to our corrupt politicians, why not we strengthen as again I will reiterate
How?
what we're
I want to hear how.
We can strengthen our judicial system by revising our laws that needs revision in itself. Because if we're going to argue that the judicial system in itself is flawed and it is imperfect, then why not we make it perfect? Why not we create more discussions that can expose the imperfections of our laws?
Okay. What I want to hear more of is how can we impose a check and balance system both internally and externally? Because if you're proposing a death penalty, how can we make sure that the person who is being tried for it is not just a palit ulo, is not just someone who was absorbed into this entire system of corruption, and we only give the most severe sanction to the one who is most accountable? How can we do that?
I think, papasok po yung checks and balance dito sa point na we need the power of the Congress to actually commit themselves into creating laws, not just in the expansion of the jurisdiction of Sandigan Bayan sa paghi ng mga corruption cases or graft cases ng mga politicians or ng mga public officials. At the same time, I agree na kailangan na natin ng immediate passing of a law that actually prohibits, political dynasties or political families in general. Kasi yun po yung political landscape natin right now eh. Whether we like it or not, they are political families who withhold power like a family business.
Okay.
Let's just rethink the discussion first. We're going to discuss this in an ethical and a philosophical way, because laws can be amended. And what I'm getting here, or what I'm trying to get here, is that should we set a precedent for society that violence equates to justice? Should we not instead create alternative options instead? And that's what we're trying to propose here. And we don't want a society wherein we are advocating for violence, for becoming barbaric, and that's what we believe in.
Okay, so it's more of like setting what culture you're trying to
Yes.
propagate in the country. Sige, given that the country's system right now is still up for debate until the next election, do you think that with the death penalty, the new administration will be able to carry this out in terms of continuing whatever systems were already in place? Kumbaga, death penalty is just an add-on law. And in your case, since you're proposing improvements in specific laws, what specific improvements are you trying to probe? Yun yung gusto kong marinig. Kasi we're talking about improvements as a general motherhood statement, but we're not specifying what that chink is. I want to hear from you first.
I think nandun pa rin naman po yung faith 'no, na magpapatuloy yung death penalty kung sakaling magpalit man ng administration. Kung maa-approve natin siya ngayon and magpapalit tayo ng administration, I think because of the safeguards 'no, na nandun sa law, mananatili pa rin po
What
yung
is the safeguards from the law? Can you elaborate?
kasi po 'di ba parang bago po kasi ma-repeal yung batas, 'di ba kailangan pa ulit ng isang congressional process para, matanggal, ma-amend or gumawa ng bagong batas. So I believe and I have faith 'no, na hindi titignan ng mga politiko, hopefully 'no, 'pag nagkaroon na ng death penalty yung kulay nila or yung pagkakaiba nila. Because if we really believe that now is the time para magkaroon ng pagbabago sa political system ng Philippines, I think
And
now
you
is
think
the time.
death penalty is the catalyst for that?
Yes po.
Okay.
Since we are a shame-driven country, I believe the alternative solution that we can have, that things that we can amend in our law, is that to have more safeguards, to have more transparency to our to how we deliver, or rather to how we create policies, not just and. We know by now that the government is trying to be more transparent. However, there should be continuing revisions to that. We believe that there should always be room for improvement, and as well
Okay. You want to go through the free flow discussion? Bigyan kita ng chance ituloy yung sinasabi mo. Okay.
we believe that in the opposition, there are such things such as making the public know about all aspects of our policies. Because what I'm getting here is that people are, or rather corrupt politicians are able to get away with corruption because the people do not know what these policies are all about. So what we're proposing here is that we not just lay out what these policies are, but rather how it is going to be implemented, how it is going to be supervised, who supervises it.
But that is the problem po, because they do not fear the law anymore because they think that the law is not harsh enough. for them to be sanctioned. They are not taking the law seriously because we are not harsh enough to these politicians who are committing corruption as a heinous crime.
How do you think that do you think that they will also fear death penalty in itself if they can also
Who is
bend the law?
not afraid of death? I mean, if you are to face death right now, are you not afraid to die?
If I'm a corrupt politician, what I would do is that to bend the law to my own liking. So therefore, I could also use
No,
the
I
death
believe
penalty.
na
I could also use the death
we
penalty to
have to
silence
have
those who goes
faith
against me.
to
Okay.
the separation of the powers of the branches of our
Okay,
government.
now I'm hearing more.
Because
what are you talking about?
the involved politician, for examples, are part of the executive branch, part of the legislative branch, and the branch that we are putting our faith in is the judicial branch. So,
Okay.
dun pa lang po, I think kailangan
Sorry,
natin.
ang gusto ko malaman, so does the death penalty also extend to the judiciary branch if proven that they are also part or in cahoots with these people who are corrupt?
That's why po kailangan nating i-propose na at the same time na i-approve natin yung death penalty. Nandun din po yung judicial cleansing na
Okay.
tinatawag natin, na kailangan yung composition ng judicial system natin is that hindi siya ganun
Patrimonial,
patrimonial to the existing system po sa loob ng legislative or sa loob ng executive. In that way, walang personal connection, may impartiality. So
Okay.
nandun yung just and fair trial ng mga cases na ganito. And
So are
we
you saying to
believe,
me, are you telling me that judicial cleansing should include death? That we should, that we as a society should set our principles, our philosophy in life, that in order to get justice, it should be death? I mean, because if we are going to have that kind of society, then that is such a cruel and inhumane society to live in. Because if we are going to also include barangay officials,
but
as is
corruption
in the bill,
itself,
as stated in the bill, if we're going to include
corruption
barangay
is
officials, then
itself,
I don't think it will be a very, very, I don't think it will be a just society to live in. And I don't think justice will flourish in the society because you can just kill
I
these
will
people.
have to reinstate that corruption is even more dangerous and even more marahas, no?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Corruption kills
I don't think-
people.
yes,
so
I know
why
that.
do
I
we
don't think
have
so.
to give humane, or why do we have to give courtesy to these politicians who are literally stealing in front of our face?
Okay.
I
Why
do agree.
do
I
we
do
have
agree that corruption is
to grant them humane
Okay.
policies or humane sanction when they do not even think about our future?
Maraming salamat sa ating mga debaters. Actually, hindi ko natanong sa iyo is what statistics or what is the efficacy of death penalty in those countries that have actually instated that? Yun yung hindi ko narinig eh. So, anyway, mamaya in your closing statements, you may be able to reiterate that.
Yes.
But once again, maraming salamat sa ating mga debaters. At grabe kayo. Okay. Marami akong gustong marinig pero parang sa dulo ko na naririnig. So, sayang. So, anyway. So, alamin naman natin ngayon kung ano nga ba ang comments naman ng ating mga nanonood sa social media. At lahat ng yan ay sa pagbabalik lamang ng Schoolmates.